Hi everyone, it's Bita Delisi. Thank you so much for joining us at Best Legal Practices in Owning and Operating Rental Property. Today we're going to talk about COVID-19 and what it means for commercial landlords and small business tenants. If you already haven't done so, get social with me on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us and like us. I always tend to do video 1-minute videos and update you on what's happening in the realm of tenancies. If you ever have any question regarding residential or commercial tenancy matters for yourselves or for your clients, please feel free to reach out to me. My number is at the bottom of this presentation, and you can follow us on our, check us out on our website at stonegate.legalservices.ca. So for those of you who know me, I won't talk too much about myself. My path started in real estate. Through real estate, I started acquiring clients and investors who owned small to medium-sized apartment buildings, commercial plazas, and I started a property management company. I would usually go to the board to try and evict the tenants for matters such as non-payment of rent, illegal activities, maintenance and repairs, and my matters would get dismissed because I wasn't a licensed paralegal or a lawyer. So I went back to school. I obtained my paralegal license, and I just want to be specific because all my law firm does is landlord and tenancy matters only. So commercial and residential tenancies and small claims court matter pertaining to real estate matters. So this brief disclaimer, everything we talk about throughout this presentation is not a basis for legal advice. If you have any questions that you want to talk to me about in privately, feel free to give me a call after this presentation. So these are the top 5 concerns that my office has been overwhelmed with by calls from realtors and landlords alike regarding commercial tenancies. So throughout this presentation, these are the top 5 concerns that we are going to address. So let's talk about how this specific program works. So the Ontario Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program, the OCECRA, is a CMHC funded. This specific program provides forgivable loans to eligible commercial landlords experiencing a shortfall in rents from tenants whose businesses have been affected by COVID-19. So here's how it works. 25% will be covered by the landlord, 25% will be covered by the tenant, and 50% will be covered by the government. So for example, if your rent is $10,000 a month, then 25% being $2,500 will be covered by the landlord and tenant, and the remaining 50%, which totals out to be $5,000, will be covered by the government. Commercial landlords are required to reduce the rent by 75%. So this is how this program works. The loan is conditional upon commercial landlords signing and submitting a forgiveness of rent agreement for the following months: April, May, and June. So once this forgiveness of rent agreement is signed and is granted, this will be applied retroactively to include the month of April. The landlord plays a very crucial role in the acceptance of this application because the landlord must agree that no evictions will take place during this time for this forgiveness of rent agreement to be approved. So property owners may still apply for assistance once the 3-month period has ended if they can prove eligibility during these 3 months. Property owners must refund amounts paid by small business tenants for the period. So what does that mean? So for example, and the note here describes it below, if the rent has been collected at the time of approval, a credit to the tenant for future month's rent, for example, July for the month of April, is acceptable if it's agreed by both the property owner, so the landlord, and the tenant. So if, for example, the small business tenant has paid for April and May, once this program comes into effect and once the application process has been granted, that payment for April and May can be put to, let's say, for example, July and August. So what are the eligibility requirements for the landlord? So the landlord must own a property that generates rental revenue from commercial property located in Canada. So of course, the number one thing is that the property must be located in Canada. The landlord also must be the property owner of the commercial property where the small business tenant has been impacted. Okay, that's very important as well. The landlord must have a mortgage loan secured by a commercial real property occupied by one or more small business tenants. So this is really important because for those landlords who don't have a mortgage on their property, who are free and clear, they may not apply. They may not be granted to apply for this loan specifically. So number 4, you have entered or will enter into a rent reduction agreement for the period of April, May, and June 2020 that will reduce impacted small business tenants by at least 75%. And the final one is your rent reduction agreement with impacted tenants includes a moratorium on eviction for periods of April, May, and June. So what does that mean? It means that the landlord will not pursue an eviction for those 3 months. The landlord must have declared this rental income on their tax return, okay? So personal or corporate for the tax years of 2018 and 2019. So for those property owners who do not have a mortgage, an alternative mechanism will be implemented. So we don't know the information for those property owners who are free and clear, who don't have a mortgage on the property, but we are sure that in the next couple of weeks, we will be given more information. What we are informed about is the deadline to apply for this program is end of August, August 31st, 2020. Okay, so there's plenty of time. What are the eligibility requirements for small business tenants? Okay, so the small business tenants, they're the tenants that pay no more than $50,000 in monthly gross rent per location. They generate no more than $20 million in gross annual revenues. They have temporarily ceased operations, so they're generating no revenue, or have at least a 70% decline in pre-COVID-19 revenues. Again, just another note, to measure revenue loss, what the government is doing is that for small businesses, they can compare revenues for the month of April, May, and June of 2020 to last year revenues, so April, May, and June of 2019. They can also use an average of their revenues for, let's say, January and February of 2020. So just another note here, alternative programs for those business tenants that are struggling, even with the help of this program, are still available. We'll talk about them in the next slide. So here are some unanswered questions, okay? So I don't know the answer to these questions. There have been a lot of uproar about, rents are being taken care of in both commercial and tenancy matters, but what about TMI? What about taxes, maintenance, and insurance? What about the ongoing property taxes? They're talking about the property taxes, they can be deferred, but for the bigger properties who have, who are paying 30 or 40,000 a year, deferring those property taxes is not going to help. Okay, we need a forgiveness of property taxes, not a deferral. What happens to the utility bills? If the tenant cannot barely pay their rent, and if they don't pay their utility bills, then the utility bills get tacked onto property taxes. And what about damages due to vandalism? There's a lot of businesses that are resuming back to work, but they can't fully open and operate because of damages due to vandalism. So again, we hope to gain more clarity on not only these 4 questions, but many other questions in the next coming weeks. So one of the top questions that I know I'm going to be flooded with is, how can we apply? Where does the landlord apply? So if you put your information, your email address in the group chat, I will for sure send you a PDF copy of this presentation. So you can click the first one where it says click here. You click there to sign up, and CMHC will actually let you know when more details are available and more importantly, when the application process reopens or opens. Number 2, if you click there, these are the alternative programs for struggling small business tenants. Okay, so there are tons of programs out there that will help the small business tenants, provided that you qualify for these programs. So we'll open up the floor for questions. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out on our social media, Facebook and Instagram. Give us a call at 416-937-2766. Visit us at stonegatelegalservices.ca. Send us an email at info@stonegatelegalservices.ca. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Our office is located at Victoria Park, just south of Finch. It's at 2750 Victoria Park Avenue. If you ever have any questions, feel free to drop by. We'd be more than happy to see you and answer your questions. Bye for now.